it appears that it would clearly be more helpful if you could tell each fighter what to say. I mean, it would appear that that would be very helpful. And that was even tried to a very, very small extent. And I've gotten this story a couple of times, and I always confuse it if it was Paul Heyman or if it was Jim Ross. I believe it was Paul Heyman. But the UFC brought them in. And you guys will see before every walkout that goes onto the main card. This goes all the way back to 1993. But before each walkout, there'll be a very quick promo where the guy's talking. The guy is just sitting there with whatever backdrop lighting and someone's spraying a spray bottle and maybe he does a little shadow box, but then he'll look at the camera and he'll say something. He'll do the same thing with the other guy. And the editing team's job is to get those two things that were said, those two somethings, to at least by the ear of the audience, to have them go together with one goal, which is to tell a story that the audience finds interesting, to hook them and captivate them, to now watch this dispute that is about to have resolution in the People's Proving Ground, the Octagon. That's what this is. This is the exact format and recipe that they would use in court. That's why court TV works. Here's this side and here's this side. Here's this argument and here's this argument. Now, we know the audience is going to like one of them. That's going to be the good guy. We know the audience is not going to like the other argument. That makes them the bad guy. But now we're also going to have a dispute resolution if you just stand by. So it is the number one thing that you're watching when you like mixed martial arts. If you tell somebody, I love mixed martial arts, and they were to ask you, what do you love about it? You are likely to say the punches and the kicks. You're likely to talk about the chess match and the different realms of fight. You're likely to speak that way and think that you're intelligent. If you could look a little deeper within yourself and you could activate more of your subconscious, you would realize that you like dispute and dispute resolution. That's the only thing that we do here. The entire brand, everything that moves forward, and the reason you watch the promos and the face-offs, the competition itself. If there was draws, just by example, you guys fight for 10 minutes and it's a draw and we both go home, we now don't have resolution. It would change the sport completely. Just so you understand, it would change the trajectory, it would change your anticipation, it would change the way you look at it, it would change the stakes, it would change everything. There must be dispute, and there must be resolution. If either one of those is missing, you don't have something big. You can't build a brand. You say that your favorite sport is MMA. Okay, great. Well, it's going on this weekend down at the YMCA, a mile from your house. Do you have tickets? Bet you can buy tickets. No, I'm not going to go to that. Well, why not? You said you like MMA. Said it's your favorite. It's going on right there, and tickets are only $12. Because that's not what you like. It must have both. All the big fights. Never been a main event that doesn't have it. There's been plenty of fights where they get on undercards. You don't even know why we do undercard matches. We do undercard matches to make sure that the lights and the cameras are put in the right spot. Gives the production a little time to get going before you go live to make sure that everything goes right. I mean, I'm just sharing for you, like, the ingredients that would go into those kinds of fights are not the ones I'm talking about. So, if you were to follow the history of professional wrestling, which didn't have a competition, it had manufactured and scripted resolution, it still did great because they understood that they had to put more time into the conflict. For the really big matches, they put a whole month into conflict. The resolution, the match itself, was around 7 to 10 minutes. So understanding that, and understanding that when I get asked questions and you get the athlete to give quips and you get the other guy to give quips and you try to edit it together later, is difficult, takes a lot of work, and there's even some luck involved, unless you could script the promo. Unless you could tell this guy might not even know what it has to do with. He might not even know the context, but come on, say this line and look at the camera when you say it. Now say this line, looking just off camera, but smile when you say it. Then you're going to edit it together and piece it. Okay, now look to your left, and you do that. But then an hour later, here's your opponent in there. He tells your opponent, now look to the right. Then when the editor puts on TV, they both are looking at each other. And then the music hits, and they walk to the ring. Like, obviously, it would be more helpful and easy if we could script the promo. So let's bring in one of the masters. And it was either Heyman or Ross. And they did. And they put them in a back room, and nobody even knew they were there. And they were consulting. They were working with the UFC. And the very first one that they were at, they did what they would do, which is one guy is the good guy and one guy's the bad guy. There's no story, okay? There's no Romeo and Juliet in the history of the world that had a good guy and a bad guy. Well, in that case, they made BJ Penn the bad guy. And BJ did not. Now, BJ's a friend of mine. I'm not giving him a hard time, but I'm sharing with you, he did not like that. He did not like being the bad guy. He didn't care if it was best for business. He was not a businessman. And if you were dealing with me and it's going to draw, go ahead and do it and attach my name to it. That's very different, and that's unique. And I don't say that to put myself over. You're not going to be like me either. It's the reason we don't have heels. We don't have heels because they can't take the booze. So BJ Penn delivers a line the director had told him to give. Professional wrestling consultant there in the room. And when it got edited and put together, the internet, you guys, didn't like it. And BJ came out and said, that wasn't even me. There was a pro wrestling consultant in the room. He asked me to say, I read those lines. I had no idea. That wasn't even me speaking about something. I read the line. Whether that was Paul or that was Ross, they were fired instantly. They were never brought back, and that conversation was never even had. They didn't want anyone to know that they even went down the road of having a scripted promo. That story I just told you, you likely didn't even know. Now, it's out there and you can find it, but you likely didn't know it. I'm telling you, this was so, oh my God, please, I hope nobody asks about this. It was a death nail moment, because if you bring in anything to do with professional wrestling, you're now challenging the credibility. And that's only happened one time in the history of the UFC. And it was the great Sakuraba. But Sakuraba did a JOB on worldwide TV for another Japanese fighter. And then it comes out that they were both pro wrestlers. It looked fugazi, and it was fugazi. And that will stop this business in its tracks. I think that you guys would understand that. Every part that I said, where that would be a problem. Also, why you would want it if you could get away with it. Also, the fact that it's helpful in the storytelling. I think all of that makes perfect sense to all of you. But when you tell somebody what they can't say, it's only a two-sided coin. There's not a third door. There's not a fifth door. There's not 20 different things to talk about and consider. There's two. If you tell them what they can't say, the other side of that coin is you're now telling them what to say. And if you tell them what to say, you now have a scripted promo. You don't have something authentic. It's not real. It's now entertainment. It's wrestling. It's every song that's sung on the radio. It's every movie that's in the theater. It's great. It's every book you've ever read. It's great. It's fun. But it's not this. It's not real. It's not the news. It's not current. It's not authentic. You tell somebody what they cannot say, you're telling them what to say, and you now have a scripted promo. Or you let that play out. Because there is built-in mechanisms that will deliver punishment. There are sponsors that say goodbye. There are viewers that say goodbye. There's crowds that boo, and a guy that wants to be remembered and have his hard work recognized. It will all get trumped by something silly that he could have said, whether he meant to say it or it was on accident. Those things live forever, and the consequences are dire. It's not as though there are none. So if you would like to be entertained, if you would like this scripted promo, if you'd like a really bad, rotten guy to come off and look really good, there's channels and there's avenues where you can do that very thing. But if you want to see what's real, if you want to see how a guy feels, if you want to see who a guy is, if you want to know about his previous experiences, if you want to know why this matters to him, if you still want one place that you can go, you can get the truth. That option still exists. But if you tell them what not to say, you're telling them what to say. And it's now scripted.